Let's go.
This is the Ray and Adam Show, brought to you by inplayLIVE. The Ray and Adam Show, a podcast where Ray and Adam, two professional sports bettors and brothers, talk about all things sports investing, sports betting, and how to profit in the long run from betting on sports and fantasy football. And now, the Ray and Adam Show, brought to you by inplayLIVE.
Let's go. Welcome to the Ray and Adam Show. Thanks for tuning in. Razor, how are you today, brother?
Pretty good. I got one of my last rounds in Sask for the year coming up, but in half an hour after this starts. So
nice. Hope you wore your woolies. It looks a little cold.
She's a little chilly, but yeah, we're actually there might be one more. We're in the semifinal of the lefty righty, so hopefully get her done and play one more in the cold. But nice. First, today, pretty excited about having Matt Barnaby on.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, we had Lorenzo Alexander on last week, and you know, I'm very rarely a fanboy. Like, I don't get too worked up, but you know, he's been a guy that I've followed forever, and I think anybody who watched the show knew you know, just how much admiration I have for the way that he lives his life and the way he played his role in football. He was just an amazing interview, and then it was a real thrill after we started staying in touch, and we were texting after, and we were talking after the Bills game, and what a class act. Just a really, really cool show. So guys, we're going to be talking all sorts of sports this week. But let's get started. Matt, do you want to turn your camera on? Let's bring on Matt Barnaby. Matt, thanks for coming on, man. This is a real thrill for us. Ray and I are joking after we got Lorenzo on last week. We sort of feel like George Costanza using pictures of hot girls to get girls that are out of our league. We're kind of using that with the guests. So thanks so much for coming on. Always love the way you approach life. You know, no holds barred, get at it. So it's really cool to have you on today. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for having me on. And yes, sex sells. We know that. it's pretty easy to get a guy on, either show a really hot girl or alcohol. Those are the two things that's gonna sell for sure.
There you go. Right on. Well, that'll be, you know, we'll know we've really made it when we have our own brand of alcohol that we can send to our guests. That'll be the sign. Hey, so Matt, before we get started, you know, we're going to talk a lot about, you know, what's your playing career, and hopefully we get some fun stories and some things like that. But before we go, I mean, we recognize that, you know, you're far more than just a hockey player. You're a human. You're a parent. You're a regular guy. Talk about what you're doing now. What's new and exciting in your life?
Yeah, first and foremost, listen, I don't identify myself as an athlete. I was a hockey player for 15 years since I was a young kid, but I, you know, try to strive to be more than just a hockey player or a dumb jock. I try to diversify myself in a lot of different areas. And, you know, I think the one thing, I grew up without a father and single parent family with my mother, and I'm a father first. I think that comes first and foremost. There's two people in this world, and I'll include my wife and make her the third, but there's two people in this world that don't live with me, that on a drop of a hat, anytime they need me, whether it's my daughter, who goes to school, third year university in Ohio, or my son who plays minor pro hockey in Orlando for the Solar Bears, that need me in 12 hours. I'm on a plane, I am there. And that's awesome. Probably my proudest thing, is to be a good dad and help them try to find their way as they get a little older, 21 and 24. Obviously the responsibilities are a lot different, but that's first and foremost my proudest thing. And besides that, I've always loved betting. I've been a bettor since I've been 10 years old. I've played in the poker games with my mom and our family at low stakes. Now it's gotten a little higher stakes, but I work for Bet99 and bet football, bet hockey, really bet on anything that I can find an edge, or at least find that I can find an edge and enjoy it. But like I always say, gamble with what you can afford to lose. I'm not betting something that's going to change my lifestyle, even though mine might be a little higher than the normal person, but it's something that's not going to keep me up at night late if I do lose. And you know, my grade 10 science teacher said I'd never make it in hockey. Well, not only did I make it in hockey, I was very fortunate. I also wrote a book, just finished writing a book that comes out in November. So thanks for the plug. I love it. Can't wait to get on tour and sell a few books and also change stories. So they'll get to hear these stories that we're going to talk about also
That's
in
awesome.
person.
You should maybe sign a copy and send it to your old science teacher.
I don't know if she's still alive, considering she was probably 70 back then. So yeah, I've sent her. I remember sending her my first hockey card to the school. Never heard back. Now it was tough to hear back in 1992. But yeah, I've made reference to it many times. And Mrs.
Awesome.
Schmidt, if you're still alive, I don't know if she'd actually get it if she was still alive.
Oh, I love it. I'm not that I love that she may or may not be. But sure. But I love the it's great. So talk about your experience as a sports bettor. I mean, we'll talk about your career, but Ray and I were kind of in that same boat. I think Ray was probably 8 years old when you bought your first sports leg ticket, and I wasn't much older. We talk about it all the time about knowing the right people who were on shift at the Craven Esso who we knew would sell us a sports leg ticket illegally. So talk about that for you, like expand on that a little bit.
Yeah. I've always loved the rush of winning. I've always loved numbers. I'm a math guy first and foremost in anything. I think that bodes well if you're playing poker, which I absolutely love to do. I could sit there for 3 days straight and pretty well stick me with a bag and I'll piss my pants while I'm playing because I don't want to miss a hand. But you just evolve, and then you start playing in junior, and the games are a little bigger and a little bit more fun. And then you get to the NHL, and then you get traded to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Then it's fucking free for all with, Lemieux and Tom Barrasso and Jaromir Jagr. We had some great games.
I bet.
I miss those days. It was cash money. It was non-taxed money, which is always better when you don't have to give that money to the government. Totally. And that's just evolved. I love betting football, and you'd always meet your bookie on the Tuesday and have a great week or a tough week. And I've always loved the rush, but I've never gambled beyond my means. If I lose, right. I lose. I set limits even now. I think responsible gambling, and even a lot of the campaigns that are out there for various companies, I don't want to be taking people's rent money or people's money away from their kids. If you're going to gamble, I want you to bet with Bet99. I want you to use my promo code Barnaby36. That's just natural. That's like an alcohol company doesn't want to fall down drunk buying their alcohol. They want the casual one that's going to spend their money anyways. You want that part of the market, but we don't want to affect lives. And I don't want to be a part of someone that affects people's lives. So I always try to say, stay within your means. It's a lot of fun to play, but I set my own limits. I lose a certain amount in the first 3 days of the month. I'm not betting for the next month, but I have that discipline to be able to do that. And I understand some people don't, but I absolutely love it, man. You give me Sunday footballs, Saturday college football, any day during the week. Listen, I'm not watching Ottawa, Detroit or Buffalo, Detroit on a Tuesday, but you give me a C note on the game. I'm all in. I'm watching it, and I'm cooked out on the couch. I'm all good.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, what a time of year for that too. Are you a baseball fan and obviously hockey coming up, but are you excited for playoff baseball?
I don't bet a lot of regular season baseball only because there's a shitload of other stuff going on in the summer, a lot of golf. So it's kind of I'd say baseball is kind of my slow time of year. Having said that, we get into playoffs, and I think it's a lot easier to digest and dive into the numbers because there's not 162 games. These guys go out hard on the road. It's hard to know in baseball what they're doing. You do develop trends, but I think when I look at playoff baseball, and obviously being Canadian, I'm cheering for the Jays personally, but listen, that doesn't play into it. I'm a New York Jets fan, and I bet against them 16 times last year because they stunk. So, my favorite analogy is my favorite team is the one that covers, and that holds true. Now, the Jays at about minus 180 roughly on a 3-game series coming up. I'm all over the Jays, so I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, we got basketball coming up. We got football, college football, NFL, hockey. I mean, this it doesn't get any better than this time of year.
Yeah. Have you started to evolve in the way that you bet? Have you started to take more in-game wagers, or are you still sticking mostly to pregame stuff?
No, anywhere you can find. Listen, in game, if you're betting a team, or sometimes in hockey, you'll take the favorite. Let's just say Colorado's playing Detroit, a powerhouse against a weaker team. Well, you're just praying for Detroit to score one in the first 5 minutes and get that odds down, then hammer a team like the Colorado Avalanche. So I think it's very paramount in anything that you do. If you can find a number that makes sense, or the number changes, because listen, I don't care what gambling company is out there. There's people on the other end. It's people. Yes, there's algorithms and all that, but there's people that make mistakes with lines that you just don't feel right, or the timing of it, and looking at those timing and hitting the button at the right time can be the difference in making money and losing money.
Yeah, and Bet99 would be, there's not many sites out there that offer as many options live as Bet99. I mean, for those of you who have not who aren't on Bet99, you should be. Like, it is a fantastic site, super usable, great interface.
Lots of promos too, like all those
free bets,
wagers, and
those are the best. Hey, free money is nice. Free money. There's always a method to everyone's madness in giving out free money. They want you onto the site, and everyone understands that. And sure. I listen, I'd love to say just Bet99. Listen, if you bet enough and I bet enough, you should have multiple sites to check lines in everyone. And that's just me, full disclosure to everyone out there. I like our site because it's easy to get money out. And I think when I look for sites, a lot of these sites, it's a week because they want to keep your money in there and have you re-gamble it, because the chance they believe is that you're going to lose it.
Yeah.
But
it's like
free money.
The plane on the runway in Vegas. Keep you there.
Absolutely. I've seen that before too. And I've heard some crazy story from some big gamblers in Vegas. But again, it all comes back to discipline. If you have discipline, you can make money in this industry.
Yeah, no question. Are you the promo code that you mentioned, maybe we'll get you to say it again for Bet99, is just to be clear, can an existing account use that, or is that only for new people signing up for Bet99?
Only for first-time registrants. I think that's going to change in the near little future with the NHL starting back up. We might have a promotion with those, but for first-time registrants, it's a match of up to $600, and it's Barnaby 36, B Barnaby 36.
I don't know how your contract looks with them, but there's a few pros within IPL. You don't want using that code, I don't think.
Hey, if they make money, they make money. Hey, God bless them. Go for it, boys.
Yeah, we the group that we've been betting with. It's a group called inplayLIVE, and it's sort of how Ray and I started to take our betting life from something where we were casual bettors who would lose more often than we'd win to really, really doing well with this. And I've never made a single, actually, that's not true. I've made one wager that changed my life. But generally I don't make any wagers that end up changing my life. But overall, having the knowledge that we do and some of the strategies that we do, that has been life-changing. So it's a really, really cool thing to take. Well, you did it for years. How do you possibly have a better scenario than when passion and success meet, right? Like, it's the best. Like, it's not work. It's the best.
Yeah. And it's the same thing with making it the NHL or making it anything you do. I don't care anything business-wise. Your podcast, my podcast, when hard work meets dedication, and you're very fortuitous, and you're able to do something because you work hard at it and you have fun at it, it doesn't seem like work. Like, I'm sure this doesn't seem to like work to you guys, and doing my podcast doesn't seem like work because I really enjoy it. Listen, I'd rather sit on the couch and bet $200 on a game and watch it and have a little bit of nerves and a little bit of rush. And if I lose it, it's like I went to the game and spent $200, but I'd rather be on my couch betting on the game than actually go watch a game live. I'd rather watch games live all weekend long and have red zone ticking, looking at the scores, than actually go to an NFL football game. That's just me. Sure. That's just me and my passion for it. So no, I'm very lucky to be able to do what I do and get paid as an influencer, but also to be able to give my picks. And listen, you're not always going to win. And I give my picks, and there's weeks I'm going to be horrible, and I'll be like, fade me. I can't listen. If I'm picking a game with Andy Dalton in it and I pick Andy Dalton, bet the other fucking side, because Andy Dalton has cost me more money than my ex-wife. If I pick the other team, Andy Dalton, the Red Rifle, is going to fucking throw up 400 yards and score 40 points, and I'm going to lose. So anytime you hear Matthew Barnaby pick a game with Andy Dalton, fade me. Go the other way.
Love it. I love it. What a line. And yeah, the only two people that Ray and I try to convince that this is really hard work is our wives. That's it. Everybody else.
I'm going to work, babe. I'm going to work.
Yeah. I got to work. Honey. What do you want me to do?
Big day.
Sundays. I work 14-hour Sundays.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Matt, let's talk about your playing career. I was doing a little homework on you before the call, and like, you were such an enigma as a player. You were so unique as a player. I mean, you're a shit disturber, obviously. I mean, everybody knows that part about you, that you loved getting under the skin of other people. But what made you so different from other people that like to play that agitator role is you'd answer the bell, and you wouldn't answer the bell fighting, Brian Bellows. Like, you took on the heaviest of the heavyweights in a time when 20 teams in the show had a true heavyweight. Like, there's no such thing as heavyweights anymore. I mean, they don't exist. Back then, every roster had one guy that was there only to fight, and you'd take those guys on. Like, really, really unique. I was looking at some of your stats. I want to know what the hell happened in 1991-92 when you're playing in the Q. 63 games, 66 points, 476 penalty minutes. I thought it was a typo. I checked on another site. It wasn't. That's the greatest stat line I've ever seen.
No, the greatest stat line is the next year. The next year is 111 points when you add up the three teams with 448. That's wow. And I was suspended for 10 games. So that was my greatest. Everyone asked me my favorite year. I'm like, that stat line, like, I don't care what league you're playing in. It's something I'm very, very proud of. Now, I took a lot of beatings. It was the wild, wild west in the Quebec League back then. But yeah, you're right. When you get into the NHL, you forge an identity. And, I came to the team in Buffalo, and we had Dale Howardchuk on the power play, and Alexander McGillney, Pat LaFontaine. So, you break in, and you just know you're not wow. to that level. And you have to be very, very self-aware and very cognizant of where you fit into a lineup and how you're going to make that step. A lot of people don't know how or aren't willing. And I think Billy Guerin said it. I think that's where I got this line. A lot of people are say they're willing to do absolutely anything to make the NHL. But are you really willing to do anything? Are you willing to be a scorer and turn into a fighter? Are you willing to be a scorer and be a fourth line grinder blocking shots? Are we really willing to do absolutely anything? And I think that's a great line from Billy in any walk of life. Are you willing to skip parties when you're 17 through 20 to go to the gym and not drink and not go out on every Friday, Saturday night to do your craft? And, it's like going to school or working in any realm. Are you willing to sacrifice? It comes down to doing what you like. And when I got to the NHL, I wasn't going to change what had worked in junior, because that got me a name per se. It got me drafted, and I wasn't going to change my identity. Now, I came from absolutely nothing, and I wanted to have money. I didn't want to live like I did as a child. So I had money as motivation, but I also had the love for the game that I absolutely loved. So it was kind of a two-pronged cord in I knew what I wanted, and no one was going to stop me. And I was very, very fortunate in that. And yeah, answering a bell always was important to me, but I was going to do it on my terms. In game, it's all about winning. So penalties and be an asshole. And then as we went through, I was going to answer the bell. It might not be that game, might not be the week after, but at some point I will answer it against anyone. It didn't matter. Except for Joey Kosher and Tony Twist.
Those are your limits. That was
those are my limits. Those two are off. There was no chance.
Yeah.
So speaking, you gave me two segues. One was money. The other was being an asshole, but I'll start with the money. So, as far as an owner spending his money, when you find a guy who can put the puck in the net, who will fight, who will cause riots, who will, be entertaining, Was there anyone better than you?
Wow. I say in my era, no. That's not being cocky or whatever. I just thought I was able to score 300 points. Do I think I could have scored 500 points? Yeah, I think if I didn't fight as much. Hard to play that game, especially like I was very fortunate to play on a team like Buffalo where we had Brad May and Rob Ray. Those guys fought the heavyweights. If I wanted to fight the heavyweights when I wanted to, I did, but I didn't have to. And I think there's a big difference because then I went to Pittsburgh and I was the only guy. And I have to fight the heavyweights then because that's part of my role. So if you look at my numbers, my best years were in Buffalo, New York, Colorado for a short period of time. Those three places, 11 years or 10 and a half years are where I had my best numbers. And it correlates with having really tough guys on our team. When I went to Colorado and I had 9 points in 13 games, we had Jim Cummins and Pete Worrell and Bob Bugner. We had a plethora of guys that were willing to do it. When I was in Pittsburgh, it was me. My numbers went down. When I went to Tampa, when I went to New York, we had Steve McKenna, Dale Puritan, Chris Simon. We just had so many guys, so I didn't have to play that role. I was still a shit disturber and still fought. I was able to concentrate on hockey. So further to your question, I was good at it because I played with guys that enabled me to play that role. And I played with good players and I got ice time and I got second power play minutes time. But as an owner, I don't think they minded spending the money because they're looking at jerseys in the stands or hats with Barnaby on it. It would be LaFontaine, Hasek, Ray, Barnaby. Were the jerseys being sold, so they're making a lot of that money back in just promotion. So I was good at it. And when I look at a guy like Brad Marchand now he's a 100-point guy. Tom Wilson, so good at his job. Not a heavyweight back in the day, but him and Ryan Reeves are as tough as you get.
I think they got to pay those guys more though, Barnaby. They got to. I'm talking bang for your buck here.
Different era, but I certainly would have made a lot more money if I was playing in this era, but I don't hold any jealousy. And I hate guys before me that held jealousy and anger towards us. It's all about guys before me paved the way for me. Guys before them paved the way for them. We paved the way for the guys now. And I want them to make as much money as they can.
Yeah, that's awesome. And actually, so what you said about some of the, the modern day sort of shit disturber guys. So when you were at your best, you would do things to make, opposing fans, opposing players really dislike you. They'd hate you. And you love to make them do that. I know that.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious now that you're out of the game, you're an observer. Do you look at guys like a Brad Marchand or Tom Wilson or some of the modern day shit disturbers? Do you look at them with dislike? Are they good enough at their job to make you dislike them today as an observer of the game? Or do you know what they're doing so well that you just respect it and appreciate it?
I love it. I love it. If I went into Philadelphia and I wasn't getting the finger stuck up by every fan in the stands and getting death threats and screamed at and booed every time I got on the ice, my job. I wasn't into the game, and I better get into that fucking game to help my team. So I knew that was villain number one. I want the fans, and I want the other team to feed off their fans hating me so much that they might even get out of character and take a penalty because their fans hate me so much that the coach might get involved or I want them to take a penalty, and I want our power play to go out and score, and that is equally as fun, rewarding. To know my team scored because I drew a penalty doing what I did. So I watch these guys now and I'm like, no, these guys are masters. They're great. Yeah. And you got a guy like Tom Wilson, especially, or Brad Marchand, they get to go on the power play. So not only do they get to draw the penalties a lot of the time,
they get to beat them up. Yeah.
They get to capitalize. It's like double whammy. These guys get to double fuck you. It's unreal.
So that's a whole nother show.
So I was going to ask you, I mean, it was obviously calculated, but there has to have been some like natural element of you just being a fucking asshole.
Everyone always says like, biggest douchebag on the ice, and you are completely the opposite off the ice. Like, I'm the guy at the bar talking to everyone, joking around. I don't like to be malicious I don't like to carve people. Like, if a guy's fat, I'm not going to be like, hey, fatso. Like, I'm not going to the guy's ugly. Like, I'm the complete opposite off the ice. Now, when I'm with my buddies, all bets are off. We have fun, and I'm an asshole, and it's awesome. Like, when I'm playing poker against these guys, I want to get under his skin. I love it. Listen, there's a chapter in the book of shit that I said to people, and I'll take a guy like Ken Hitchcock, who yelled at me one day, and I went by the bench just pulling like the bottom chin out, making gobbling turkey sounds. Like, I'm trying to piss him off. And I want him to send out a guy that, of course he's going to. Yeah. And he's like, you're nothing but a pussy, whatever. And I'm like, get the thing off your chin. And I can see all the guys because he can't see his guys laughing. And he's like moving or motioning. I'm like, no, the third one down, you fucking fat fuck. But no, off the ice, I'm not an asshole.
I love it. Yeah.
So maybe the ex-wife, when we were going through a divorce, and I asked for one of the titties because we were splitting everything 50-50, that might have been an asshole move.
Right. Oh my God. This is great.
The new wife, her ex-husband bought her titties too. So now I say it's like Starbucks. If you ever married or buy like fake titties for your girl and you break up, you gotta find someone that their ex bought it. It's like Starbucks or Tim Hortons, man. Pay it forward. Pay it forward. Pay the titties forward.
I love it. It's so good.
I just saw Adolfo Gutierrez said, I love titties. I love it. Me too.
And he does. He's
titties
one of my
great.
boys. It's true.
Titties are great.
Titties stucker, just like Bellows.
Yeah. How much research would you do, or how much thought? Like, okay, it's the night before a game. It's a big game. You see who you're playing. Are you laying awake at night thinking, like, okay, how am I going to get under so-and-so's skin? How am I going to do it? How am I going to piss him off? How am I going to get him to, or was it just sort of game to game? You just sort of knew?
You kind of did you already had your research done from players. I'd say you gather most of your information from players that are traded from other teams.
Right.
So if we got someone from Philly, I'm going to ask them about Lindros. I'm going to ask them about Leclerc. I'm going to find out who has a girlfriend on the road. I'm going to find out all this shit. So I'd say most of the stuff is already in there. And then it's just over the years of getting to know guys or reading stuff in papers. Now it would be different with the internet, has everything. It'd be so easy right now. Like, I would love to have Twitter and roll in and be like, hey, fuckheads, let's go. Rolling into Philly. Like, your best shot. Like, it would be so easy now. Like, now I'd probably get fined by the league every week, but it would be well worth it. But yeah, it's just more research, and then it's in game, like trying to find something in game that would just piss them off. Do anything, or behind whether it's saying stuff, whether it's just chirping them, whether it's sticking them when the ref isn't looking. All those things play into it.
You had, and I'm sure there's other examples of it, but you mentioned that you're buddies with Rob Ray, but when you went to Pittsburgh, you had some epic battles with your buddy. What was it like? I mean, you obviously knew exactly how to get him fired up, and like based on the videos, I mean, you look at the look in his eye, you had him pretty fired up. What was that like? Getting one of your buddies so riled up, and how do you separate the on ice from the friendship?
It's a great question. When I went back the first time, obviously you go from being one of the fan favorites and popular players on the team within the city, and all the charity work you do, just everything plays in it. You've made friendship with these guys for 7 years. Well, you come back, and Rob's one of my best friends. He has dinner at my house the night before, but I know there's always the potential, and I'm going to be an asshole on the ice. Like, Buffalo's now enemy number one. I'm enemy number one to them. So, I'm playing for Pittsburgh now, and everything that we had in Buffalo is now over. And I'm very good at separating one from another. When I move on, it's like an ex. I'll go back to the ex a lot with all these things. You break up, new girlfriend's hotter, they're in bed, they're your new squeeze. Pittsburgh was my new squeeze. So I was running around in that game. I remember it was like yesterday, and Rob came on the ice like, "Hey, dude, like you gotta slow down. You gotta slow down. Lindy Ruff he wants me to fucking take you out." He goes, "I don't want to fight. I don't like. We don't." I'm like, "Rob, I'm not slowing down." I said, "I'm gonna look like an idiot if I slow down." So he goes, "Well, you know what we have to do?" I was like, "Absolutely. I know you have a job to do. You play for Buffalo. I play for Pittsburgh. Whenever you're ready, you let me know. I'm going to go run over your fucking defenseman right now." And then that shift is when it ended up happening.
Oh, it's awesome. And you guys went a couple times, right? You didn't have just the one. You had a
He's
couple
tough.
battles.
Fuck. He's got big, fat hands too. Punches hard, but he can't punch with his left. So just if you watch any of the fights, you never see him ever throw a left. So I know that. I was able to avoid the big one because he can hit hard, man. He's tough as they come.
That's awesome.
Just tie up the right. So let's talk a little bit more about Buffalo. So you were dealt, was it for Stu Barnes in the year they went to the Cup? How was that watching that? Watching them go through that, or did you have to look away?
You know, when you first get traded, you just want to be better than the guy you got traded for. And when Stu, he's a good player, man. He was drafted 4th overall by the Jets. I had a chance to play with him in Dallas years later. He's the epitome of a great teammate, a great husband, a great father, just a great guy, just an awesome. I wish I could say bad things and he's an asshole. He's the opposite. He's as good as it gets. So I knew what they were getting just from because he was loved in Pittsburgh. The guys loved him in Pittsburgh, but you always want him to fail, right? Like you want him to suck. And he went like 14 games without getting a goal, and he was struggling. And I was playing pretty well in Pittsburgh, and we ended up losing to Toronto in the second round. Buffalo plays Toronto. Now I'm cheering for Toronto, and Buffalo knocks them out. Now they go to the finals, and they're playing Dallas. And I just remember being at the game going, like, these guys win a Stanley Cup. I asked to get traded because I asked to get traded.
Oh shit, you wanted out.
I mean, I'm taking shoelaces out of my shoes. Like I'm on suicide watch because this is not. I got to live with this the rest of my life. Not only did I get traded, but I asked to get traded. So I was at that game with Brett Hull. That was a goal, man. That was a fucking goal.
Hey, we got a lot of fans in Buffalo on the Ray and Adam show. We can't be saying shit like that.
Hey, I love my Buffalo fans, but hey, I wouldn't be here because I would have had to do something seriously drastic if that was a goal.
Talk about Buffalo. I mean, Ray and I are both diehard Bills fans. Neither of us have ever lived in Buffalo, but we spent a lot of time in that community, and we've got a tremendous amount of respect for it. You played in a number of towns. What was your favorite stop? Like just in terms of the town you lived in, the community you lived in? Because I know, you were not the guy, sitting at home staring at the walls. Like everywhere you went, you were out in the community. So what was the community that really stood out to you in terms of, what it meant to you to be a part of it?
Well, I'll echo your sentiment first and foremost. Buffalo is an unbelievable place to play, to live, to raise a family, to party. Man, these fucking people.
Oh yeah.
Party. I mean, there's a reason why Bill's Mafia is an internet sensation. I invited a couple Buffalo guys up this summer to my golf tournament. 36 Open, and I had to put tables away, like hide these things because they were breaking. They were costing me hundreds of dollars a day just in broken tables, being idiots. Just an unbelievable fan base. So like Buffalo, I still call home. My kids are from there. I go see them in the summer. It's the reason I'm launching my book tour there. Just an unbelievable place. And then if I had to take a second, I just say New York City. Madison Square Garden is a special place. Anyone that's played there and then called it home. When you go into a rink and it's on the 5th floor and you walk out and, you walk out of the room and you're Susan Sarandon and Tim Robbins and John McEnroe or John Bon Jovi, like you never know who's going to be in the green room or outside the room. So it was a really cool place to play, but Buffalo's as good as it gets.
I actually got to experience that in New York. My best buddy is Tanner Glass. And when that one cup run, I flew out for a couple of games and got to go down in that wives lounge. And like you said, like it's a little bit different than some of the other wives lounges around the league. Like new set of new buffet every period. There's, famous people around. I'm stuffing my pockets with M&Ms and grabbing 3 beers in every period, like that.
Yeah, you should have went for the sushi instead of the M&Ms, but it's
I
okay.
did that too.
When I was there, we had Messier and Bure and Yager and Lindros and Peter Nedved. I mean, he was married to one of the swimsuit models from Sports Illustrated. So they'd be with their friends, and the wives would come in just looking at these girls come in track pants, just beautiful, beautiful girls. So yeah, it was an awful time going up to that green room. I can't tell you how fast or how little weights I did after a game in New York. I always would be like, I'll get it done tomorrow. Up to the wives room. Let's go, boys.
That's awesome. Talk about some of the guys you played with. I mean, if you look at if you made a roster of all the best guys that you played with, you'd have a pretty scary hockey team. Who really stands out as like the guy that impressed you the most, just as in whatever way you want to define it? Who really, really made an impact on you in terms of like, holy shit, I can't believe what I'm watching every day with this guy?
Yeah, you're bringing up a lot of chapters in the books. I have one with all the Hall of Famers that I've played with, and it's pretty fucking amazing, the guys that I got to play with when I look back. And you look at the top 100 guys in the NHL, and I played with a shitload of them. But and I just saw, I don't know who wrote it, but on the live stream, how I was playing with Eric Lindros. If I was going to build a hockey player, he's a machine. It's like Aaron Judge. He's like the Aaron Judge of hockey. If I'm going to build a baseball player, it's going to be Aaron Judge. He looks the role, just to smash it out when he doesn't even have his best stuff. Eric was just a man child, and he was my roommate for 3 years in New York and my 1 year in Dallas. Just a truck. And when we played against him, I mean, I used to feel sorry for Alexei Zhitnik and some of our defensemen when you'd have these guys just coming full throttle, just crushing these guys. I mean, that whole Legion of Doom line. So Eric Lindros stood out just for his size and his ability. He could beat you up. He could run you through the boards. He was also, a Hart Trophy winner. So when you're 6'4", 245 and you're a Hart Trophy winner, pretty awesome. Mark Messier was my centerman for 2 years. What else are you going to say about Mess except for the ultimate leader, was in great shape. Obviously, I played with him later on in his career, so it wasn't the same Messier that was there in '94 or even, in Edmonton in the '80s.
But the aura was still there, hey? The aura was still there, yeah.
Probably I'd say probably the only hockey player athlete that I was ever even nervous to meet, because he just was bigger than life. Just him and Gretzky are probably the only two, and I've met so many greats of past and now present. And then at that time, guys that I played against. Joe Sakic was unreal in Colorado. Didn't say a lot. When he spoke, he didn't have to raise his voice. He was just lead by example, consummate professional, constant team guy. And I always looked at those big guys who included like the rookies, who included the guys that just called up from the minors. And I think the one thing about all the great leaders that I played with, and that's, Pat LaFontaine, Messier, Sakic, Marty St. Louis when I was in Tampa, even though I was only there a short period of time. The guys that were able to make fourth liners or guys that called up from the minors and make them feel like they were as big as the best player on the team. Those are the guys that I really respect, because it's a hard business and it's hard to come up. It's like having a new job and being a rookie and walking in and the boss taking you to lunch or dinner, making you not feel like a peon or less than you're worth. Those are the guys that really stood out to me. So those guys for sure were at the top.
It's
I got a follow-up question. Well, it sounds like you do too, Adam.
Yep, go ahead.
So I want to go back to like you being world class at getting under people's skin, and obviously you did that to your opponents, but were there any of those teammates that you mentioned that you actually had to get under their skin a little bit to drive a fire under them?
I'd say there's some guys that I don't think I'd get under their skin. I was very vocal if I thought we needed more.
Yeah.
And the one thing about being vocal is you better be fucking working your balls off.
Right? Yeah.
Be the hardest worker. And listen, I'm not going to hide it. I play with a lot of guys and I like to go out. I love having my beers. I love going out after games, having my cocktails. But if you're going to do that, you better be the hardest worker on the ice. So, you know, I always knew I like to have fun. I still like to have fun. That's never going to change until I die. But I was always going to be the hardest worker. I was never, ever going to let someone say, oh my God, he was out having beers last night, or he had a couple bottles of wine. You're never going to use that on me. I'm going to outwork you. I might not be better than you, but I'm going to outwork you. So yeah, there's certain guys that you had to be on, to fire them up, or at least demand more. And you don't always have to yell at someone. There's better ways sometimes than firing them up that way. It's like, hey, we need something. We need you. Like almost go to their ego or peer pressure and say, hey, you're our guy. We need you today.
You know, you said something right off the top when we started talking. The very first thing you talked about is how you grew up without a dad. And you know, I as a parent, you know, I've studied this stuff at countless hours. You either emulate what happened to you repeat it, or you recognize and you make a decision to go, well, I'm sure as shit not going to do that. Like I'm going to be exactly the opposite. Like, and, you know, you sort of use that to drive you to give your kids the experience you didn't have. And it's like, to me, there's nothing more admirable than that. You can't beat that in terms of admirable behavior. As a hockey player, were you taking notes of like early on in your career when maybe some of the vets weren't treating you the way that you you wanted to be treated? Did you store that and go, okay, I'm going to be a better veteran when it's my turn?
Yeah, I was very, very fortunate. I'd say for the most part. Were there a couple? Yeah, there were a couple along the way that I didn't like, and I was just never going to be that person. That's just not me either. Yeah. I'm just not. It's just not me as a person. I love to have fun, whether it's the rookie or the kid that's called up. We're going to have fun, and I'm all in inclusion. I want everyone to have fun. I think the only way to have a good team is when you're all pulling. Now, it probably started because, and I can even peel it back, when I was a rookie in the Quebec League in my first year junior, we had some fucking asshole veterans, and we ended up fighting them. And they ended up trading the asshole veterans, and we jumped them. I was like, fuck, we're an expansion team. We can outnumber these guys. Let's fucking go at it. We might get a few bruises, man, but let's have at it. And the coach ended up pulling us in. We beat the fuck out of these veterans. And I was like, never again. We're going to have a rookie party, a rookie fun, but we're not going to degrade these guys. We're going to have fun with them, and everything they do, like tricycle races, aren't demeaning. They're fun. And we're going to jump in on the fun, but we're not going to drink these guys so they're puking all over themselves, or having them run from downtown Quebec to the rink naked, where they're getting picked up, or some of the horror stories of getting locked into bathrooms and all that kind of shit. Like that's not how you build teams. The only way to build teams is through inclusion and everyone being on an equal playing field. So, you know, there are the few and far between that were there. But I'd say since junior was ingrained in my rookie year that was never going to happen.
Yeah, that's awesome stuff. And you know, there's certainly enough stories about, you know, junior hockey and some of the mistakes that went along the way. And I just keep, like, as some of these really shitty, controversial stories are coming out, I all I see is that those are kids that weren't guided properly, that they weren't told, you know, here's the rules, here's what you do, you know, and so, you know, it's nice to hear you talk about this. You know, when you were in the NHL, the previous generation had, you know, like they had different experiences than you did, right? Like they'd play through broken jaws. They'd, you know, like wearing a visor was, you know, a sign of weakness. Yeah. You go down the line. One of my really good friends, his dad was a guy named Barry Gibbs, was the first overall pick in 1966 with the Bruins. You know, played in one of the toughest eras of any sports. And you hear his stories of just the carnage and what guys would do because they didn't want to get sent to the A, right? Because they'd have to play through anything just so they could keep their job. Now the generation that's in now is very, very different from the one you played in, right? I mean, there's no Scott Stevens, there's no Rafi Torres anymore. Yeah. Like those open ice hits are gone. What do you think of the game today versus in the era that you played it? Better, worse, different? Like, how do you kind of judge it?
Yeah, I'd say different, and I'm going to go in a lot of different avenues here because I love the era that I played in. Was it archaic a little bit? Yeah, it was a little bit Neanderthal when you think of the fights and 5-on-5 brawls and the tapping on the shoulder to go out there and fight. It was just crazy. I mean, anyone could get hurt at any point. You never knew when you're going to take an elbow to the face or, go out and have to fight any one of these guys at any time. So did I love it? Yeah, I loved it. It gave me the name. It gave me popularity. And I think we'd all be lying if you didn't like being the popular kid or being cheered and admired. I mean, I'm not an arrogant person. I'm cocky, but I'm not arrogant. But do I have an ego? Yeah. I mean, I want a podcast to be awesome. I want to be the best looking guy. I want to be like, not reality, but everyone likes admiration. So I had that, but it was archaic and very dangerous. And you were expected to still play through injuries. And I played through many concussions. So I'm glad that I know a lot more about the head and trauma and concussions and all of that. I miss just the characters. We're very few and far between. We just talked Marchand, Reeves, Wilson, not Brady Tkachuk, Matthew Tkachuk. There's not a lot of guys out there that you can think of that's characters of the game. Right. I love watching the speed of the game now. I love that we're not seeing a fight every 5 minutes. Turn the TV off when there's a fight. Do I say, oh my God, this is... I look back at ours and say, do I wish it was a little cleaner? Yeah. But it'd be hypocritical on all these fronts. I still think there's a room for toughness in the game. I'd like to see it not be quite as soft, but that's... I'd say that's just 2022 as opposed to 1993.
Yeah, that's society in general.
That's societal. Like that's, it's always the teacher's fault. And parents, we coddle our kids way too much. It's always, parents run themselves wrecked trying to do things and go above and beyond the expectation of kids. So I'd say it's more than just hockey. It's more our society in general and blaming others. But going back to the question, the era that I played in, the era now, I'd like to see a little bit of a blend between the two. Yeah, for sure. So speaking, firsthand what concussions are like. And now, I mean, it's one of the nice things about concussions is that doctors everywhere are so much more knowledgeable about, how to treat them, what to do, what not to do, all of they haven't perfected it. I mean, the brain is the hardest thing in your body to heal. So with that said, give us your take on the whole Tua situation with the Dolphins. I mean, I've got some thoughts on what I think is going to happen next year, but I'd be curious first in your opinion about, what happened that week and then what, the potential fallout could be. Listen, I've lied to doctors before. I've played with a blind eye and switched from the right side to the left side so I could see that part of my peripheral because I couldn't see out of my left eye. So I moved over to the other side so I could see the ice. And I lied because I didn't want to lose my spot in the lineup. And that's 99% of the guys in any sport don't want to take themselves out. It's been ingrained since you've been a kid and you're competitive. Wait 1 second. Do I think Tua might have lied? Maybe. I think the spotters in the NFL and the NHL are put in place, and I think for the most part they do a good job. Are there going to be slips or cracks in the armor? Yeah, that Tua thing did not look good, and I actually made the joke when he came back in. Oh, it was just his knee or his back or whatever it was. Listen, you don't collapse like that. Yeah. You don't collapse like that. So for him to be back in that game after watching that happen with everything that we know on concussions and the lawsuits that have been levied against the NFL, it's fucking ridiculous that Tua was back in that game. Yeah. Just optically, I don't care if he's lying to you. I don't think he's going through the protocols, whatever it may be. You're looking at millions and millions of people seeing this happen.
Yep.
Take them out of the game. Go in. Talk about it. See your doctors. Clear them to play in that game. Now, I know, and we know, that once you have one concussion, the second one within a period of time is a lot easier. It doesn't take the same hit. The reason I retired is because the cumulative effect of my concussions, and I had 12 or 13, maybe more, but I wasn't able to take punches anymore. Punches I was able to take 20 of and laugh off, 2 of them caused me to have concussions and throw up.
Yeah.
Sight in my eye. So the cumulative effect of concussions or hits adds up. So to be out there and then 4 days later play again, waits another week and takes that same hit as he concussed. We don't know. That's speculative. Yeah. But
bad look,
way better chance.
Yeah.
You have a way better chance that it doesn't.
Yeah.
If he's there and he had a concussion, he's 4 days later. That is 100% unequivocal. There's no arguing with that. So just hope he's all right. He's going to miss the game. Sure. Playing my New York Jets this week. But we wish the best for him. He just seems like a great guy, but in the end, it's just a bad look for the NFL. Yeah, and there has to be a scapegoat, and there was one.
And here's what I'm going to predict next. So they're making a formal inquiry now. They're digging into this pretty hard. The doctor who cleared him has already been let go, which is in itself an admission that somebody screwed up.
Yeah.
If you are Tua's agent, if you're his family, if you're whatever, you almost have to throw somebody on the Dolphins under the bus, because, you know, like if this ends his career, and I don't think it's going to end his career, but you know, it could, right? Like this could be
we don't know.
Absolutely could. We don't know. But then the other part is, if he's one of these guys that has really bad CTE when he's done, if he doesn't push some of the blame on somebody else, then that's going to really hurt his chances of winning a lawsuit later. So like, I think the fallout from this could be historic. Knowing what they know, I think the Dolphins could get absolutely smoked by this, and frankly, rightfully so, right? Like, what the fuck are you doing? You've been waiting for a franchise quarterback forever, and you're going to rush him back in week 2 or week 3 or whatever. Well, like what are you doing?
Week 3, yeah.
You finally found your guy, and you're going to, like, it's just so stupid.
Yeah, it's dumbfounding. Something's going to come of it. I mean, when there's inquiries, hey, listen, we know Team Canada right now where we sit with inquiries and how those things explode. Anytime there's an inquiry and then we're talking injuries, we're talking lawsuits. Listen, the NHL and Gary Bettman and Roger Goodell and the NFL and the owners, they could give 2 shits about brain injuries. That's let's call it spade.
Clearly.
They could give 2 shits. It's about, I can tell you how many people I've talked to from the NHL since I've retired. It's been 15 years. Once you're gone and you can't make them any more money,
you're gone.
You're out.
Yeah.
That's just a reality. And people should know that. And I've told people, listen, I knew it was going to happen. I have enough friends. I'm okay. I don't need a phone call from Gary Bettman, but the legality, lawsuits, I'm dumbfounded that he was allowed to go back in that game. I'm dumbfounded. Even if he said it's my back or it's this or it's that. Listen, someone's going to take the fall more than just that one doctor.
My 13-year-old son knew exactly what happened watching. Like, you can't tell me a doctor didn't know, right? So now we've got 5 minutes left here. First off, for those of you who
I'm not allowed to play in third periods, I was told. End of games, Kevin Constantine when John Tortorella let me play. So this is going to be fun. I get to play in the last 5 minutes. Good.
There you go. Yeah. So guys, if you're not following Ray and I or the show on Twitter and Instagram, you can find both. It's at Ray and Adam Show in both cases. There's a promo code on there to save you some money when you sign up for inplayLIVE, which of course is their title sponsor. If you're going to sign up for inplayLIVE, if you want to learn how to make money long-term betting on sports, they're a great group. Strongly encourage you to sign up. Matt, if you would be so kind as to send us something that we can post on our page to promote your book and
absolutely
and your podcast and everything, we'd really love to do that. So, but before we go, we want to make sure we throw a couple of picks out there, and we're gonna make sure we're picking some lines that are on Bet99. Who wants to go first? Who wants to make their? I've got two actually. I've got a futures bet and a bet for tonight. So, you want me to go first?
Fire away.
All right. So my first pick, and I never bet on preseason hockey, but there's a line that looks pretty good tonight. So the Oilers right now, I was listening to the radio. I live in Edmonton, so I listen to the local radio. McDavid is hungry to start playing some real hockey against real NHL players. And what they were saying on the radio is that you can't just expect a guy to show up in week one or game one and play 23 minutes and do all that. You got to ramp up. So the Oilers are starting to ramp up. They're bringing mostly a full roster to Vancouver. They and I shouldn't say much. They're without Draisaitl, they're without Kane, but they've got everybody else going. They are plus 133 to win in Vancouver tonight, and Vancouver's missing some guys. You know, every time I hear McDavid's hungry, you know, like that's usually a pretty good sign. So I'm taking that for tonight on Bet99 plus 133 Oilers money line. And then the other wager that I'm taking, I was looking at some of the future odds, and I don't know about you guys, but when I watched Dallas in the playoffs last year, and I watched Jake Ottner and what that guy was doing in net for Dallas, it's really hard to look at him and say, you know, this kid lacks superstar potential, right? Like he had his, you know, a 57 save game or something crazy in the playoffs last year. Guy stood on his head. So I'm taking Ottinger for Dallas to win the Vezina at plus 1,800 this year. And I think there's real value there. Do I think he's going to win? Probably not. Do I think he could get in the mix? Absolutely. And at plus 1,800, I think it's worth a bit of a stab. So that's what I'm doing.
He was a first rounder too. So he's like, I mean, that's pretty rare for a goalie. He's got the pedigree and it just depends. I mean, the goalie a lot of times is a product of the team in front of him. So hopefully they can sign Robertson and win that bet for us.
There you go. Yeah. Matt, what do you got, man?
I'm going to go NFL, and I'm going to lay the biggest line. There's a lot of big lines this week, big monster lines. I'm laying the biggest.
Okay.
Kenny Pickett going to Buffalo. I don't think it's going to be pretty. Von Miller is going to destroy this young kid, and I think he's going to be a good quarterback, but not a lot of weapons on the outside. Najee Harris has been okay. I think he's averaging like 3.1 yards a carry, getting a little better lately, but you're not running on that front four. So I like the Buffalo Bills. I think this is going to be destruction. Minus 14.
I love
it. Absolute insanity. And I'm laying Panthers future again. Win Conference at plus 500. I think they're the best team in the Eastern Conference. I think Colorado wins the Stanley Cup, or at least should be the favorite. I think they're the powerhouse. Toronto at 99. You look at the odds to win the Stanley Cup. It's Colorado at plus 400, Toronto at plus 840, Florida at plus 900. Florida's a better team than Toronto. Better team. We don't know how goaltending. We don't know if Matt Murray is going to stay healthy. He's been in Ottawa the last 2 years. It's been a disaster. Been good through preseason. Listen, you're giving me Florida Panthers. Toronto. Now it's a Canadian company. Toronto's always going to be at the top. 6 million people.
Yeah.
People listen to why numbers are there. Those numbers get overinflated. So Florida Panthers to win the Eastern Conference. Tampa Bay still good. Carolina, not a bad bet either at plus 1,100 to throw money on.
There you go. And if I could add one thing to your Bills bet. So the Bills have the best second half defense going. They've allowed a total of 7 points this year in the second half. So if you wanted to make a live bet at halftime with that knowledge in place, you probably could. You could maybe take, not a lot of production for Pittsburgh. You could take, Buffalo to win the third quarter or whatever. But
those are one of those games you pray for Pittsburgh to score on the first drive.
Oh,
just score on the first drive.
Yeah, and then you hammer them. Yeah, absolutely. Razor, what's your pick? And then we're going to sign off.
Maybe to add to that Florida pick too, they are absolutely in win now mode after the picks that they dealt. There's some pressure on that GM. I wouldn't be surprised if they unload a little more of the future to get it done this year, because now's their window.
Yeah.
My picks, I'm gonna go back. I think there's such a mess in Miami. You can get +3 at even money on Bet99 for the Jets. I'd do that, even sprinkle a little bit of money line. I think there's too much of a distraction there, and the Jets could get it done. They're a little better than people thought too. So
yeah.
And then the other one I actually stole from, I can't even remember. It might have been Guardsy. He said Dylan Holloway, rookie of the year, 30-1 on Bet99, which is quite a premium over some other sites.
Wow. And he's going to be playing top 6 minutes.
He'll be
either
playing with
McDavid or Draisaitl.
That's going to go down. Like, again, they were talking, this is before he made the team, right? So those numbers are just fucking going to skyrocket downwards. He's playing top 6 minutes. Looks good. University of Wisconsin, Tony Granato, loved him.
He's going to have a decent line mate. So
he's going to have a decent line mate.
I like it.
Yeah. Hey, Matt, thanks for doing this, man. So grateful to have you on, and this was a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed yourself. Love to have you on, and we'd love to promote the shit out of your show too, and we're gonna make sure we do that. So thanks so much for coming on. This was you never know how these calls are gonna go, and this was great. So just thanks a lot. We're really grateful you spent the time, and all the best to you in now and in the future.
You guys as well. Pleasure meeting you guys, and all continued success. And listen, I wanted to be an asshole when I played, but not an asshole to you guys or your listeners. So cheers. Anytime you want me back on, love to come on, talk some football, talk some hockey, and good luck to your Oilers. Hopefully they can get over the hump. And Jack Campbell is pre All-Star game, Jack Campbell.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice time for Ray and I and my kids who are big fans. I mean, we've been diehard Oilers, Bills, and Jays fans forever. So we had some lean years, and now we're finally, the loyalty's paying off. So it's a lot of fun. Guys, thanks. This was such a great show. Thanks,
absolute pleasure. Thanks, Matt. Have a good one, guys.
Cheers, guys. Have a great day to your listeners as well. Bye-bye.
You too. Thanks.
This was the Ray and Adam Show, brought to you by inplayLIVE. Sign up now for inplayLIVE by using the exclusive Ray and Adam link and promo code.